In this video, we will use the simple moving average forecasting method to forecast demand for using a 3-week simple moving average and a 6-week simple moving average. We have demand data for 12 weeks, and we also will then graph the demand data, the 3-week simple moving average, the 6-week simple moving average, and then finally we'll compute the errors between the demand and the forecasts to be able to compare our forecasts using 2 different measures. We'll use the MAD and the MSC, the mean absolute deviation and the mean squared error. So to do a 3-week simple moving average, the first thing we need is to be able to have enough weeks to have 3 weeks to average. So we can begin this forecast at week 4, and then it's as simple as taking the average of the first 3 weeks of demand. We copy this formula down. This becomes our forecast, 3-week simple moving average forecast. Note that we can do the following week 13 because we do have the last 3 weeks. We can also get a forecast for the 13th week. Now, similarly, we can do the same thing for the 6-week moving average, but again, we can't start right away until we have, in this case, 6 weeks worth of data. So let's go and do an average of the first 6 weeks. And then we'll copy this formula down. And again, we can reach week 13 because we have the previous 6 weeks of data there. And this is called a moving average because the data that we're averaging is moving depending on where we are. Now let's graph this and see how it looks. I'm going to insert a scatter plot, be joined. Now Excel sometimes fills in what we might be looking for. I'm going to remove the data and we'll recreate it. Okay, let's click Add. We'll pick the first series is going to be the demand. So I'll select the header for the demand. Then the X values, those are the horizontal values. I'm going to pick the week 1 to 13. And then for the Y values, I will then pick the values in the B column. Okay, that will give us our demand. Next one we're going to have is the 3-week simple moving average. X values will be, again, weeks 1 to 13. And then the Y values will be simple moving average, one of which we're in column C. Add another one. This one will be the 6-week simple moving average. And then I will select the X values. And then the Y values. And then click OK. Now we'll see the scale on this graph. Nothing starts until 600, so let's go and change that. Format the axes, and we'll set the minimum to 600 so we can get a bit better picture of what's going on. Okay, next thing we should do is we should label our axes. So under Add Chart Element, we can put axes titles, primary horizontal, and we can put axis title, primary vertical. And then maybe let's move the legend over to the right-hand side. And then we'll put the axis title as the week. And then title for the vertical axis will be demand forecast. Okay, now let's calculate the errors. The first error we can calculate with the 3-week simple moving average is going to be at week 4. The error is simply the difference between those two values, the actual demand and the forecast. The absolute value of that, we can use the ABS formula in Excel. To get the mean squared error, well, we can do a sum squared. And then it's going to be the errors. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start at M6, and then I'm going to continue, in this case just M6, but then when I copy the formula down, then I'm going to sum up more than one of these. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to then divide by the number that I'm looking at. The first time it will be 1, and the next time it will be 2, and so on. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to choose 4, and then I'm going to subtract 3. Okay, and then finally the MAD, that's just going to be the average absolute error. So again, I will choose starting with N6 in this case, and then I will go to N6 with the relative reference so that then when I type the formula down, I'll be averaging more and more of these absolute errors. Okay, now if we take these formulas, we put them all down to row 12, and I went to 13 by accident. We can't do that because we don't have any demand for period week 13. Here we have, as we can see, the MAD is going to be 79.48, and then we have an MSE of 8246.86. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do the same for the 6-week moving average, and we're going to see how it does. Now we can't calculate an error for some time because we didn't have the 6 weeks forecast for the first 6 weeks, sorry. So we'll go ahead now and figure out the errors from week 7 onwards. Again, that's just the difference between the demand and the forecast. Absolute value of this. And we're going to do the sum square again of the error, R9, with a dollar sign, and then let's go to R9 so that it will be a relative reference. And then we're going to divide by, in this case, it'll be A9 minus 6. So the first time will be 1, and the next will be 2, and so on. Now the MAD, we want to average all of the absolute errors that we have. We'll start at S9. We'll go to S9 the first time, and then it'll be more as we go down. As I copied all of these formulas down, we see that we receive a lower MSE and also a lower MAD of 61 compared to 79.48. So the 6-week simple moving average has a lower MAD and a lower MSE, meaning it seems to be provide a better forecast than the 3-week simple moving average does in this case.